At 9:04 a.m., the morning sun cast sharp lines through the glass front of Patriot Tactical, lighting up the polished floors and rows of rifles lined up like soldiers. The air smelled like a mix of gun oil and burnt coffee, the kind of smell you barely notice when you've been around it forever. Mitch Daniels leaned casually behind the counter, arms crossed, his faded Marine Corps tattoo peeking from under a rolled sleeve. He was holding court, telling one of his usual war stories, the kind that grabbed the attention of the regulars, mostly older vets like him, gray at the temples, wearing ball caps with ship names and unit insignias. They laughed softly, nodding at the punchlines about some rookie loading blanks wrong during a night drill. Then, the bell chimed quietly, and a woman stepped inside. Nobody turned to look. She was dressed plain jeans, a navy button-down, sneakers, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail, no makeup, no jewelry, carrying a small notepad. She moved with a quiet purpose, not trying to stand out, but you could tell she noticed everything. Anna Carter didn't interrupt the chatter. She strolled along the rifles on the wall, fingers brushing lightly over the charging handle of a Daniel Defense M4, the stock of an FN Scar, and finally the 12 Malawian Quatches SPR under a focused spotlight. She tilted her head as if listening to the rifle story. Behind the counter, the conversation rolled on. Johnson cracked a joke about a customer who thought silencers needed batteries. Mitch played along, and the men laughed. Only Calvin, a quiet Navy corpsman with clear eyes, briefly glanced toward Anna. The rest didn't notice her at all. She finished her inspection and stepped up to the counter, standing just outside the circle the men had unconsciously formed. Mitch looked over and asked politely, but with a certain distance, "Can I help you, miss?" She handed him a printed sheet. "I need a custom barrel replacement for an 12 Malawian Quatches SPR, threaded for a Surefire Sock'em suppressor, 17-inch twist, match grade if you have it." Mitch scanned the specs, eyebrows lifting. "That's some specific gear. Is this for your husband?" Mitch asked. She replied coolly, "It's for me." That got a laugh. Johnson leaned forward with a smirk. 12 Malawian Quatches, huh? What? Building a sniper loadout from Call of Duty now. Another guy chimed in. "Yeah, watch one YouTube video. Suddenly you're an operator." Anna didn't flinch. She stood tall, shoulders squared, slid the notepad into her back pocket, and held their gazes calmly. Mitch handed back the paper with a faintly condescending smile. "Look, no offense, but this isn't pink pistol territory. What you're asking for, that's team-level gear, real mission stuff. Maybe bring in the guy who's actually gonna use it." "I know exactly what I need," she said, calm but firm, "and I'm prepared to pay for it." "Well, sure, but it's not just money. You gotta know what you're handling. Most folks who walk in here wouldn't know how to clean a gas block," Mitch said with a chuckle. The guys laughed again, one cradling a rifle like a baby. Anna's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Then, as she reached for her spec sheet, a flash of metal caught the light, dog tags hanging around her neck. None of the men noticed, except Calvin. His laughter stalled, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. Mitch waved her off. "Maybe check out the airsoft place 2 blocks down. Might be more your speed." Anna met his eyes for a beat longer than comfortable. "Thanks for your time," she said, slipping the paper back into her pocket. The bell chimed as she left, and behind her, the men burst into another round of mocking jokes. "Probably some cosplay thing," one said. "Did you see how she held that rifle like it was gonna bite?" Mitch dusted off a Glock 19 like it was crumbs. Calvin didn't join in. He kept looking toward the door, unsettled. Anna hadn't raised her voice, hadn't argued, hadn't needed to, but something about her calm left a strange aftertaste. 18:11, Anna stepped out without looking back, the bell's soft chime swallowed by the heavy morning air. She moved with the same precision, heading to a black Suburban with government plates half covered in dust. Sliding into the driver's seat, she pulled out her phone and called Ops Coordination. The voice on the other end was terse. Patriot Tactical declined the request. "Non-starter. No hostility, just wrong culture," she said, voice clipped. "I have a backup. Reroute through Depot 2. She hung up, eyes flicking once more to the storefront, expression unreadable. Then, the vehicle pulled away, leaving faint tire marks on the curb. Inside, Mitch was still chuckling at his own joke about gas blocks. Johnson leaned on the counter, spinning another story. Calvin stood by the ammo shelf, a box of .223 rounds in hand, frowning like he'd swallowed something bitter. He kept thinking about Anna, how she hadn't been rattled, how she waited patiently, like she expected people to show their true colors eventually. He glanced at Mitch, who was gripping the counter like a lifeline. "Everything all right over there, Doc?" Mitch called. Calvin nodded slowly. "Just thinking." The bell chimed again at 10:26, snapping Mitch out of his thoughts. He looked up, expecting another casual customer. Instead, a man in his mid-20s stepped in, buzzcut, squared jaw, wearing a navy shirt tucked into tactical pants, combat boots. A small, worn gold trident patch sat above his heart. No name, no rank. He scanned the room and walked straight to the exact spot Anna had stood point one by one. More men dressed exactly the same entered, forming a silent line in front of the counter. Their boots barely made a sound, but it echoed louder than the music overhead. The easy laughter evaporated instantly, the room tightening into absolute silence. Calvin straightened, eyes wide. Mitch blinked, speechless. The second man stepped forward, placing a folded piece of paper on the glass counter, the same specs Anna had submitted hours earlier. Johnson took a step back, eyes darting between the men and the paper. No tension, no smiles, just purpose. Mitch's mouth went dry. The sixth seal shifted subtly, weight balanced, standing like someone trained for a fight. Calvin glanced at Mitch, whose hands gripped the counter's edge tightly. The atmosphere was icy now, the pride and easy camaraderie gone. The shop belonged to these silent warriors, no words needed. The bell didn't chime a seventh time. Not YET.AT 1031. The bell rang again. Anna entered, now in full navy khakis, her rank pins shining sharply, warfare badges unmistakable. Her hair was pinned in a regulation bun, gait crisp, eye steady. The sixth seal shifted aside as she walked to the counter. No one spoke. Mitch's face drained of color. Johnson stepped back more deliberately. No laughter, no movement. Anna faced Mitch, voice calm and clear. "Lieutenant Commander Anna Carter. I oversee procurement and equipment readiness for SEAL Team 5. Your shop came highly recommended, reputation for detail work and consistency." Mitch tried to speak, but no words came. She continued, "The order I submitted this morning was for mission-critical components, suppressor threading, twist specs, precision compatibility. I wasn't testing you. I was giving your business a chance." Johnson suddenly found interest in a holster display, eyes down. Anna gestured to the SEAL standing third from the right, who stepped forward and laid 6 stripped, cleared rifles on the counter, identical models, exact setups, each requiring the customization sheet requested. "We've spent over $300,000 in parts and custom labor across the Southeast last year," she said evenly. "We prefer working with veteran-owned businesses. Local, personal." She placed a card on the counter. "Our new armorer will take over the order. Thank you for your time." Mitch's voice cracked as he finally spoke. "Lieutenant Commander, I didn't know." "No, you didn't," she replied without turning. "Because you didn't ask." Then she walked out, the bell chiming softly behind her, a sound like a hammer striking silence. The SEALs filed out behind her. The last one paused at the door, looking at Mitch. "She's not just our equipment officer," he said quietly. "She's a Navy Cross recipient. And before outranking him, she was married to our commanding officer." The weight settled. Mitch stepped out and shut the door behind him. Inside, the room stayed still. Mitch stared at the card in his hand, finger trembling. Johnson said nothing. No one did. There was nothing left to say. At 10:17 p.m., the lights at Patriot Tactical dimmed except for a single desk lamp near the back. Mitch sat on a worn stool, elbows on knees, phone in hand, the card face up on the counter beside him. He hadn't moved in 20 minutes. Across from him, photos of Marines in dusty fatigue stared back, snapshots of a younger Mitch kneeling by an amphibious vehicle, grinning through desert grime, a group in dress blues proudly standing at Camp Lejeune. He always thought those photos meant something, a tribute to where he'd come from. But tonight, they looked smaller, somehow. He stood and walked over, boots echoing, fingers brushing the edge of a frame showing a group from Okinawa. His eyes narrowed on a face he hadn't thought of in years, Captain Elena Moreno, the first female CO he'd served under. Skeptical at first, he'd watched, waited for her to slip. She never did. She ran the unit with calm precision, Earned respect without demanding it. He remembered her quietly checking gear after a heat casualty scare. No delegation, no excuses, just getting the job done. One Lance Corporal tried to joke with her. She smiled politely, corrected him, and moved on. That moment stuck with Mitch, but he never knew why until now. He walked back to the counter, phone still unlocked. He scrolled recent calls, hesitated, then dialed the number.